Good morning, Canada. Welcome back to our here. Today is November. Today is December 1st, 2025. December 1st, 2025. Is it just me, or does it still kind of feel like 2021, 2022? I would even accept 2023. I would bargain for 2024, but on the tail end of 2025, I think there's something wrong. I don't know what it is, but if life is a TV show and 1.0 is normal pace, it feels like somebody's holding down the fast forward. We're going on 1.6, we're going to do, and we're just going fast forward and fast forward and fast forward and fast forward, and time is going faster. And I don't like it. I don't like it one bit. I don't know what the hell's going on. I don't know how to fix it. I don't know what exactly is wrong or broken when it comes to this specifically. But I know something's off because time is going by too. It's December 1st, 2025. Am I the only one that's like kind of blown away by that? Or is that kind of freaky? That's freaky. It feels like life got paused in 2020, 2021. And we're just kind of coasting, but really fast. We're on the Autobahn. But as a passenger in our own lives, and time's just going faster. Does that sound weird, or is that kind of accurate? Not to sound like we're all passengers in our own life and we're just kind of on autopilot, but something's fucking off. I mean, I was in Hawaii like yesterday, wasn't I? But that was like a month ago. I got back a month ago. What happened? I was snorkeling with turtles a month ago, and I swear I've had like 3 poops since then because it feels like it was yesterday. It doesn't feel like it was a month ago. What the hell's going on? Anyways, welcome back, everybody. December 1st. December 1st. Sorry I was late, everybody. I know. I'm always late. I'm always late to everything at all times, especially my own live streams. But as you can see, I'm in a new area. Actually, out that door, just down the hallways where my studio used to be. Buckery says you poop 3 times a day. No, I poop 3 times before noon. Don't you? Right? Right? That's normal, right? Anyways, I'm moving things around. We're shuffling things around. And sorry I was late because I was functioning off of an old PC, and then I just got my new PC back, and then I'm in a new studio, and this and that, and all that's going on, and it's just a whole bunch of stuff. And anyways, blah, 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 blah. Just turn the cameras on, shut the hell up, and talk about politics. That's all we care about. Well, I'm working on it. But time's going by way too fast. Way too fast. But I've got some news pulled up for us to be entertained before question period begins. Because question period is going to start in about 45 minutes. And there's a lot happening. There's a lot going on. Someone says, get to the point. You must be new here. There is absolutely no point ever. We just talk. There's no point to politics because nothing ever gets done. They're all on the same team. You must be new here. There's no point to any of this. But we like to have fun, I'll tell you that. So we've got some stuff pulled up. Lots happened. Danielle Smith got booed at her own annual general meeting. Kind of, sort of. Not because people dislike Danielle Smith, but because of something that she said. Because she did get some standing ovations for other things she said. So people like Danielle Smith until she says she wants to work with Ottawa, because Albertans don't want to work with Ottawa. Albertans are fed up with working with Ottawa. Albertans want what's best for Albertans. That makes sense. Then you've got the radical environmental freak who resigned from the Liberal cabinet. You've got Indigenous peoples saying that Truth and Reconciliation days are over. We could only be so lucky. And then you've also got this pipeline that's being negotiated between the Alberta Premier and our Prime Minister, but it's going through British Columbia. And so the British Columbia leader, the British Columbia Premier, is like, I'm not saying this is happening. My people aren't saying this is happening. So I don't know why the fuck everyone else is saying this is happening. It's kind of weird. It's like you and I are neighbors. And I'm saying that I'm getting a new hot tub, but I'm putting it in your yard and you don't have access to it. And I'm celebrating. All my friends and family are celebrating. And you're like, this is my yard. We literally have a fence between our yards. Are you going to crawl into my yard every time you want? This doesn't make any sense. So, yeah, there's a lot of kind of confusing parts to this. So I'll shut up. I'll get out of the way and we'll take a look at the news and see what's going on. All I ask is for you guys to hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and let's get right into this.
During the UCP's annual general meeting, the Premier said she feels happy and energized despite some boos from delegates.
I support a strong and sovereign Alberta within a united Canada. I know we might have a bit of a difference of opinion on that, but I hope people today feel a lot more confident that Canada works than they did a couple of days ago.
That they do not.
Smith claims there has been a complete turnaround in public opinion when it comes to Canadians and the energy industry. She has also said she understands why some delegates are unhappy with the memorandum of understanding that she signed with the federal government on Thursday, paving the way for a new oil pipeline to be approved under the Major Projects Law.
Yeah, so that's kind of the tricky part right now is even though we've got a memorandum of understanding for said pipeline, it's not the deal that people think it is, because there's, an increase in carbon tax by not only 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 or percent, it's by 600%, so 6%. And that pisses off a lot of people, rightfully so. So if something does get addressed about the carbon emissions tax, and we do actually proceed with a pipeline, even though there's like massive amounts of Indigenous peoples and environmentalists and other smaller provincial parties and municipalities are saying they will absolutely do everything they can to block said pipeline. If for some reason we pull off a Hail Mary Mighty Ducks movie miracle and we get a pipeline, it's still not like a full-blown like hoorah, yes, we've got the pipeline. There's still not so good parts to it, as there is with pretty much everything else in Canada. That's how Canada functions. We punch ourselves in the wiener and then we ask for an ice pack. Like, that's just the Canadian tradition, I guess. I don't like it, but it's how our governments like to operate.
For years, Stephen Guilbeault was a major player in the federal Liberal Party. He was a prominent member of Justin Trudeau's cabinet and then Mark Carney's cabinet. But Guilbeault was also a climate change advocate. His departure from cabinet now raises questions about the role of activists in government and how they can navigate in politics while advancing a larger agenda. Guilbeault said he couldn't pursue his role in cabinet, considering Mark Carney is paving the way for a potential pipeline project in Western Canada. It's a paradox activists face, navigating between personal conviction and political interests.
It's just not a workable compromise, and that if you are going to hold to your principles and that you're going to have very, very significant red lines, that, again, big tent parties that are going to try to win support across hugely diverse regions, economies and cultures in this massive country, you're going to have to compromise way too much.
Environmental activist Karel Méran has known Guilbeault for 25 years. Although Guilbeault was no longer environment minister, Méran sees his departure as a clear sign that he wasn't able to push his climate agenda as far as he wanted to.
It's as if the entire architecture of the federal climate plan is at risk now.
Other environmental advocates understand Guilbeault's decision considering the Liberal Party's shift.
Le verre hiver est tombé, c'est du noir pétrole sous les habits.
Carney's green polish disappeared. The color under his suit is oil black, says Blanc's environment critic, a former spokesperson for Greenpeace. He says he will continue to push for better climate policies at the Bloc Québécois, but other activists might come to a different conclusion.
A lot of activists will say we are better outside the formal structures of government, trying to influence from the outside rather than getting in, making those compromises, because even when you get significant gains, like I think Mr. Guilbeault did, it can be reversed.
Despite the resignation statement, Guilbeault said he'll stay on as a Liberal MP. Green leader Elizabeth May has already called on him to join her caucus.
So it seems like there's a massive kind of cabinet shuffle that's taking place here. And, well, it's not looking that good for Mark Carney. People that used to be a part of the Trudeau Liberals are not wanting to be a part of Mark Carney, which signals a couple of things. One, we're getting rid of the radical leftists in this country in politics, which is great. But two, if they're no longer radical leftists and the party's shifting in a different direction, it's shifting more towards the center, towards the right, which means that if the Liberals are theoretically on the spectrum, shifting away from the left and they're moving towards the center, the Conservative Party, which is kind of in the center right now, has some tough choices to make. Are they going to stay in the center, or are they going to shift a little bit more to the right? And that's kind of what we're all waiting for to see happen, is a bit more of a conservative Canada. And if the Liberals are already doing their part by moving a little bit more towards the center, that's a good start. Get rid of all the cuckoos in the Liberal cabinet. I think that's phenomenal. I actually suggested that many years ago. I remember sitting in my basement 2 years ago in December of 2023 saying it's not looking good for Trudeau, and if he ever wants his party to survive and the Liberals to ever maintain power or have a hope of chance at power in the next 20 years, they have to get rid of all the radicals. And it seems like they're kind of doing that. That's good and bad. It's good because, again, to reiterate, getting rid of the woke radicals in politics is always a phenomenal thing. The bad part is if they're shifting more to the center, to reiterate, then the actual right of center party has to probably go a little bit further to the right. But we're going to have to wait and see how that one plays out. I know there's a lot of criticism towards the CPC and people want to see that next step of being a bit more conservative. So maybe this is the final push that they need, right?
Well, BC's premier seems to be softening in his stance against a potential West Coast pipeline following a new energy deal between Alberta and Ottawa last week. CTV National News reporter Colton Prale joining us with more on this. So, Colton, what exactly has David Eby said here?
Yeah, headline takeaway. The big news is that David Eby says he's open to a new pipeline so long as there is no carve-out and no changes to the northern tanker ban, the northern coastal tanker ban. So what does this actually mean? Well, for a BC premier who has repeatedly said, hey, there's no route, there's no pipeline, there's no money, there's no proponent, what he has effectively done is told private markets, told the big oil companies who will eventually be the proponent of this pipeline project, if it does come to bear, that there is a route for them. There is a route through the port of Vancouver, and that's something that he is open to doing. The flip side to this is that it does raise larger questions about if there is room to change his opinion. Because if the BC Premier and Coastal First Nations are both effectively drawing the line at no changes at all, or no risk tolerance to any kind of tanker traffic through the Hecate Strait or through the Dixon entrance, which is just west of Port Rupert, where we're already seeing liquefied petroleum gas go out, then it does limit severely what the federal government can do without superseding those jurisdictions. Now, they absolutely have the right to do that. The federal government can go over BC, they can go over the First Nations. A cross-border pipeline is their jurisdiction, but at this point in time, we've heard Mark Carney say that's not something that he is willing to do and that those consultations have to take place. So what this really lays out very clearly is that those consultations, if it was to go through the Port of Vancouver, are something that could go significantly easier with the BC Premier than if it was going to the northwest coast of Vancouver, or of BC, I should say.
So why is David Eby so insistent on keeping a tanker ban in place?
Really, it's the coastal First Nations, and it's what has been described by the BC Premier and as these First Nations as an existential threat to their way of life. These are, we know, dangerous straits. There has recently been a diesel spill in the Hecate Strait, but the danger element is significantly increased if you are shipping crude and if you are shipping heavier forms of natural resources like LNG or like crude oil. And so the concern here is that even though it is likely to be significantly safer than when this ban was put in place in the 70s, there's new types of navigation, ships are double hulled, generally practices are much improved over the last 50 years. The concern is that there is zero risk tolerance, and that if this was to occur, it could devastate a billion-dollar industry and way of life for coastal First Nations, and that is why he is still so vehemently opposed to this. He has signaled that he's interested in the expansion of TMX, that even a pipeline through Port of Vancouver would be okay by him, and those are both significant policy and position shifts from the Premier, but on this specific area, on the northwest coast, he is not budging at all, and he is consistently punting, saying that those conversations and those negotiations need to occur with coastal First Nations, who have also shown little movement on their part.
Okay, we'll see as this continues to unfold. Colton, thank you.
Yeah, I think a lot of people are pretty fed up with the First Nations blocking all of these nationwide projects, and it's actually kind of poetic that it's the Liberals that are kind of steamrolling through the First Nations without their consent, without their permission, and they're just apparently just going ahead and doing things anyways, because historically it's the Liberals that have been ultra progressive and established this Truth and Reconciliation Fund, and the fact that white man bad, reparations are needed, and we need to pay multi hundreds of billions of dollars over time, and it never ends. And now they're just going, nah, we're just going to do what we want. So if that happens, that's going to spark quite a bit of outrage. But it's kind of poetic. It's kind of poetic. I'd love to know what you guys think down below in the comments about that one. All right, now we got to take a look at what CTV is saying, because what's going on with the pipeline, part of the pipeline deal is the fact that even though it's Alberta and the federal government negotiating if a pipeline will go through British Columbia, but in the memorandum of understanding, there's also a tanker ban that's being lifted. So on the west coast of British Columbia, when you go through all the islands and stuff, there's an island called Haida, and between that and the actual mainland of Canada or British Columbia, that's like a good straightaway for tankers to go through, oil tankers. And Canada has banned Canadian oil tankers from using that route for climate activism reasons. And now with this pipeline, they're saying, well, we're going to lift that ban. So can they actually lift the ban? Because it's Alberta and the Prime Minister that are talking about things that are happening in British Columbia. So if it's British Columbia jurisdiction, then this is kind of a false hope. So let's take a look.
Let's bring in political analyst Laurie Turnbull now with more. Good morning, Laurie. Good to see you on this Monday morning. First, I want to get your reaction to what we heard from Premier David Eby on the weekend, telling Vashi Kapelos that now he's open to the idea of the pipeline with a couple of conditions.
Right. I mean, it seems like when the deal was announced, when the press was all really focused on this deal between Premier Smith and Prime Minister Carney, and there was a lot of kind of, I think in some cases, excitement about what that could mean. It really looked like Premier Eby was offside, that he wasn't part of the conversation. He didn't want this to happen, and it looked like he was sort of left out in the cold, frankly, that there was a sense of momentum around this deal that he wasn't going to be able to stop. So I wonder if the politics of it kind of led him to say, okay, look, I'm not unreasonable here. Let's have a conversation and see how we might be able to get this done. And so he opens up a line of discussion around, if the tanker ban remains in place, then I might be okay with this. But that's one of the things that Premier Smith has been most adamant about in terms of being a restriction, being something that would deter investment for a pipeline in the first place. And so I don't think this is the type of thing that Premier Smith is going to say, oh, good, well, this is fine. Now we've got common ground to talk about. Like, I don't know that this is really the kind of concession or the kind of compromise that Premier Smith would think is acceptable.
Yeah, because there was talk of, I guess, rerouting the pipeline so it would go through Vancouver. Is that realistic? I mean, can you build this pipeline and still have this ban in place? Do those two things, how do you square that circle?
That's what I mean. That was my reaction to it. Is okay if the tanker ban was no issue. I don't know that was something that Premier Smith would have raised. I mean, she's been pointing at 9 regulatory factors over time that have deterred investment, that have made it very difficult for Alberta to get its product to market, and clearly the tanker ban was a big one. And so when Premier Eby said, okay, well, if we can do this without the tanker ban, then I'm good. But how are they going to get it to market then? Like, I'm not sure. I mean, and I'm sure there are ways, but I don't know what kind of message that would send, for example, to a potential proponent, an investor, which everybody has said there is not that person yet. I mean, it would seem to me that if somebody was making the calculation about whether they want to take a risk on this thing, which would be significant, and, go through all of the other challenges that are going to be present, especially given, First Nations pushback and the amount of time that it's still going to take to do this kind of thing, even if it is fast-tracked, even if it is called a nation-building project at the end of the day. I wonder whether if that tanker ban remains in place, it's going to be a lot harder to get a proponent who's willing to step up to the plate on this.
A lot harder. Okay, interesting point. Let's pivot to Mark Carney's trip to Washington this week. Given that Trump called down trade talks last month, what are you watching for? What can we expect, do you think?
I mean, my understanding is they're going for the FIFA team draw thing, and that's why he's going to be there. And so there's a universe where this is totally, he's trying to downplay expectations. It seemed to me in his press conferences last week when he made reference to this, when reporters were asking him about this, the Prime Minister was really trying to downplay expectations. He did indicate that he does talk to Trump, whether it's by text or whatever, but wants us not to be looking too hard at that. I think he doesn't want the public to develop expectations that anything is going to come from any of those conversations. So it could be the case that he kind of goes in and out and they do their photo ops and the teams are drawn and then he leaves. And it's not clear to us whether anything has moved on trade talks at all.
When do you think negotiations could restart, Lori? I know that's sort of asked.
You can hear the reporter just stressed out on the fact that we do not have a good trading relationship with America. That is hilarious.
Asking, Santa for a severely big gift, but
exactly. And I mean, honestly, I think that's one of the things that maybe in the back of his mind, in the front of his mind, that the Prime Minister is trying to do is overall try to manage our expectations for when things might turn around. I mean,
I have a problem with that wording. What the reporter for CTV just said. When can we expect Santa to give us a gift or whatever she just said? We're talking about two countries. This is business. This is country v. country negotiation. There are no gifts. There is no being nice. That's not how that works. Every country is out for themselves. And if they could watch another country vanish off the face of the earth with zero repercussions, they would sit back gladly and watch it happen. This is real world. There are no gifts. I don't give a shit if Canada and America have been friends forever. You don't wait for a gift from another country like America or any other country for that fact. It's weird. It's weird that Canada's like, yeah, we can stand up to America, but can you also give us a little gift and better trade negotiations, please? Like, come on, pick a side. Pick a side, Canada.
It seems like the CUSMA renegotiations, that seems to be the key moment for me. How are we going to get that up and running, given the fact that that president has shut down trade talks and seems to be not interested in negotiating at all? He didn't like NAFTA the first time around. And so I don't know what's going to happen to it this time. And as the Prime Minister has pointed out, most of our trade is still protected under that. And so what are we going to do to keep that in place?
Yeah, and we don't know how much of a priority talking to Canada is for President Trump right now.
It seems like not at all. It seems like not even in the top 5 of his list, frankly. We are so concerned about this, and it seems like it's not matched.
Why would it be? Why would talking to Canada be a priority for the President of the United States at all? The way that Canada treats America is disgusting. It's disgusting. Why would he give a shit? This is my problem with Canada is you got the media, you've got the news cycle, you've got the politicians that are going like, yeah, hoorah, we got to stick it to them because they're horrible and we're way better and we know better and we're going to do better. But you're not being friendly with us. But come on, guys, come on. Where's the trade negotiations? Like, pick a fucking side. You weak ass leaders. The media themselves have criticized America and criticized Trump of being unreliable, of being batshit crazy, of being so many other things other than friendly and good to work with. And now all of a sudden the media in Canada's going, gosh, why can't they just be a little friendlier to work with? It's real life. It's real life. You don't get to talk shit without the repercussions of said shit talking. I don't understand how Canada doesn't get it. They don't get it at all. It's frustrating. Pisses me off. And we're seeing a country, a beautiful country, just crap out because of people like that. Anyways, now we're going to take a look at the very fun and fruitful question period to watch, because we all know it's one of the most productive things in this country. Best use of our taxes, am I right? Why spend money on bettering our country when we can pay politicians to read their little Shakespearean scripts with their Shakespearean answers? All right, QP, here we go.
Incredible volunteers who keep them going. Giving Tuesday is a moment to shine a little extra light on their work and join in ourselves. Let's take tomorrow and lift people up in big and small ways. Generosity is contagious, and I hope we all catch it.
The honourable member for Cambridge.
Mr. Speaker, the annual hunger report from Feed Ontario came out today, and it shows just how hard life in Canada has become. For the 9th year in a row, food bank use has increased. More than 1 million Ontarians visited a food bank 8.7 million times in the last year, the highest level ever recorded. These are not conspiracies, these are facts. The more the Liberals spend, the more Canadians go hungry. With this Prime Minister who thinks like a banker, these human struggles are treated as numbers on a balance sheet, not as people. It doesn't matter how hard you work in the Liberals' cost of living crisis, as 23% of food bank users were employed and nearly 1/3 were children. As we head into the cold winter months, food banks are warning they're at a breaking point. Some fear they'll run out of food within 6 months. The Liberals boast about their school food program, yet there is nothing to celebrate when kids go hungry. This isn't the Hunger Games, but under this so-called new government, the capital feasts while the districts fight to survive. Families can't live on Liberal talking points and paper promises.
The honourable member for Markham-Stouffville.
Thank you.
you, Mr. Speaker. We recently lost a great Canadian. I first knew Alan Wells when we worked together at the Regional Municipality of York. A chartered accountant by profession, he served there with dedication for 27 years, including as Commissioner of Social Services and finally as Chief Administrative Officer and my boss. After his retirement, our paths crossed again when I was the Provincial Member of Parliament appointed to serve on the Rouge Park Alliance, of which he was chair. Under his leadership, along with our colleague, the member for Wellington Halton Hills, we were able finally to establish the Rouge National Urban Park. A dedicated environmentalist, Blue Jays fan, fishing enthusiast, former Uxbridge Town Councillor, engaged supporter of the Oak Ridges Moraine Land Trust, and so much more. His contributions will benefit our communities for generations to come. My sincere condolences to Alan's family, friends, and all those who had the privilege of working alongside him. We'll be missing those twinkling eyes. Alan. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The honourable member for Flamborough, Glanbrook, Brant North.
Mr. Speaker, last year alone, 1 million Ontarians needed a food bank, and that totaled 8.7 million visits, according to today's Feed Ontario Hunger report, which of course is the highest number ever recorded.
That's right.
Of those visitors, 1 in 3 were children, 1 in 3 were people with disabilities, and 1 in 4 were working Ontarians who still couldn't make enough to make ends meet.
Absolutely.
Ontario saw twice as many seniors turning to food banks compared to 5 years ago. And 3 in 5 of those visitors were social assistance recipients who simply can't keep up with the cost of living. This isn't normal. This isn't sustainable. And after a decade of Liberal spending and broken promises, Canadians can't afford to live. So how many more warning signs will this government ignore while families, workers, seniors are being pushed to the breaking point?
Yeah.
The Honourable Member for Poilievre. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Today, I wish to highlight the incredible work done by the women and men of the reserves of the Canadian Forces in Poilievre, the members of the NCFM Radisson and the 12th Regiment. Every day demonstrate professionalism and hard work. They define our armed forces. The work that they do to help fellow citizens in floods, for example, during the COVID crisis or around the world, for example, in Operation Reassurance with NATO, demonstrates that they are always ready to stand for Canada. They work hard to protect and represent Canada with honour and merit, and their work must be noted. I thank them for their work. Many of them have a professional life outside of their engagement to the armed forces, on top of the hours in evenings and weekends where they train and work when we need them. We thank them for their engagement, their courage, and we thank you for serving our region and our country. We are proud of you.
The honourable member for Swift Current Grasslands, Kindersley.
Earlier this year, the Prime Minister left his position at Brookfield Asset Management as head of ESG and Impact Fund Investing. He claims to have put all of his assets in a blind trust and disclosed his investments with the Ethics Commissioner. With a conflict of interest screen in place, everyone's supposed to just trust the process after the head of Canada's government left working with a company known for using tax havens in the Caribbean. Right. It also means he must recuse himself from policy discussions involving multinational investment firms. How's that going to happen consistently while running a G7 country? Last week, a senior Brookfield executive admitted to the Ethics Committee that the Prime Minister wouldn't have to worry about managing so many conflicts of interest if he just sold his assets instead of putting them in a blind trust. It was also confirmed that 95% of Brookfield's companies are not included in his screen. By the way, the same Brookfield executive had a meeting with the Prime Minister in October after he already met with the Brookfield CEO back in May. Are Canadians really supposed to believe the blind trust is hidden from them? What more do we need to see that this government is starting yet another round of Liberal corruption?
The honourable member for Don Valley West.
Mr. Speaker, it's a privilege today to rise to celebrate a great Canadian, a great leader, and a good friend. For 10 years, Julia Hannigsburg has served as CEO at Holland Bloorview Kids Rehabilitation Hospital in Don Valley West. Holland Bloorview has become an incredible centre of excellence with a reputation in Canada and abroad. Holland Blue Review recently received the highest possible rating from Accreditation Canada, an exemplary standing recognizing its commitment to excellence in all parts of healthcare delivery. This is just one of the marks of Julia's incredible leadership. She's combined her passion for children with disabilities, her work ethic, and her magnetic personality to make Holland Blue Review a place of innovative treatments, of the highest level of respect for children and their families as it promotes social justice and inclusion for children and youth with disabilities. Holland Blue Review is a family. It continues to do great work. It will be missing Julia. Her legacy will continue.
Oral questions.
Oral questions, yes, on the opposition.
Mr. Speaker, Canadians should be able to eat their fill, but the Inequality Observation Authority said that food insecurity has gone up by 82% in Quebec. And there has been a 116% increase in the number of people going to food banks. 1.7 million Quebecers cannot eat their fill. Why is this government forcing this? Why is this Liberal government forcing Quebecers to pay more on their taxes and on inflation? They're feeding bureaucracy instead of feeding their families.
Secretary of State for Youth and Children and Youth.
Merci, Monsieur le Président.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. No parent should have any difficulty in feeding their children, but on this side of the House, we have invested many times in food at school, investing in children, tax cuts for 22 million Canadians. We are investing in affordable housing, which is essential to fight poverty. On this side of the House, we are here for families. On the other side, they vote against these measures every single time. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Leader of the Opposition.
We vote against measures that feed bureaucracy instead of feed families and children, Mr. Speaker. Since the creation of the school food program, the number of children who need to go to food banks has doubled, and 90% of children don't get anything from this program. Even if we believe government figures, every time the government spends more, it becomes more expensive in food inflation on top of taxes on food. So why are they forcing Canadians? Why are they forcing Canadians to pay for bureaucracy rather than food for their family? The Honourable Leader of the Government in the House. Mr. Speaker, my colleague
this guy's such a
talked
nerd.
about the food school program. There's also the childcare benefit. We could talk about automatic benefits. So no bureaucracy when things are automatic. And these programs directly help mothers and fathers who are living food insecurity, which, yes, is too common in our society. Mr. Speaker, why does this leader and this party vote against these measures every single time? Measures that help those who suffer from food insecurity.
The Opposition.
Mr. Speaker, today Algoma announced it's laying off 1,000 steel workers, nearly a third of its workforce in the Sioux. Our thoughts are with them. The Prime Minister looked them in the eye and promised he would protect their jobs, that he would negotiate a win, and I quote, have a deal by July 21st, but it was a bait and switch that is costing people their livelihoods. On top of that, Liberals are hammering the steel mill with a higher industrial carbon tax. Isn't it bad enough that the Prime Minister broke his promise on trade? Why is he going ahead with an industrial carbon tax that will kill even more steel jobs?
Yep.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Shut up,
Obviously,
G.I.
our
Jolene.
thoughts are with the workers affected by the unjustified and unjustifiable tariffs imposed by the White House, and we'll continue to work with them as Algoma Steel is going through a difficult situation, to say the least. Mr. Speaker, my team and I have been in contact with Algoma's leadership team. We absolutely have every confidence in the Algoma workers as they're going through this hardship, and we will make sure that we support them as they're developing new products and also accessing new markets. We'll fight for these jobs, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Mr. Speaker, Speaker, more promises and more Liberal thoughts will not put food on the table of those out-of-work steelworkers. And they're not alone. The Liberal food cost crisis is growing, according to today's Feed Ontario report, which reveals that food bank use is up 13% in 1 year and 165% since this Prime Minister became the economic advisor to this Liberal government. 8.7 million Ontario visits in 1 year to the Ontario Food Bank, while this Prime Minister hikes carbon taxes on food production. Why is he driving more people into hunger with higher taxes?
The Honourable Minister of Jobs and Families.
Mr. Speaker, every step of the way, these Conservatives fight against the supports that Canadian families talk about needing. And in fact, Mr. Speaker, they just asked a question about workers that are facing job losses at Algoma Steel. And yet, Mr. Speaker, when they had a chance to vote for expansion of EI, for easier access, longer duration, and more generous benefits, they voted against it, Mr. Speaker. So how do they in any way have the right to stand up and talk about the needs of Canadians when they stand in the way of the supports that those very Canadians need?
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
The supports that those Canadians want and need is a paycheck, Mr. Speaker.
Yeah. Well said, buddy.
They want to be able to afford food. They should be able. In a country with this much farmland and this much wealth, our people should be able to eat. But according to the latest report by Feed Ontario, there's been a 165% increase in food bank use in Ontario alone since this Prime Minister joined this government. Yet he wants to go ahead with an industrial carbon tax on farm equipment, food processors, and fertilizer that will drive up the cost of food. Why does he get fat on his tax havens while he taxes?
Mr. Speaker, it's amazing to hear the Leader of the Opposition, because the first thing we did is to make sure that Canadians would have more money in their pocket, Mr. Speaker. We, in fact, reduced taxes for Canadians, 22 million Canadians. But you know what, Mr. Speaker, what's most disturbing for Canadians watching at home?
Shut up,
every
Chihuahua.
step of the way, where we were there for families, where we were there for workers, where we were there for Canadians, they stand in the way, Mr. Speaker. That's the Leader who voted against Canadian. On this side of the House, we believe in Canada. We're going to grow this country. We're going to work for families. We're going to protect the worker. We're going to build Canada, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Man, that guy's voice is annoying.
Prime Minister didn't just break his promises on food, also on housing. He said he'd double home building. But today, a report out from the Missing Middle shows that housing starts are down 34% across 34 Ontario municipalities. Condo starts down 51%. Yet the Prime Minister goes ahead with a Liberal industrial carbon tax on the steel, aluminum, glass, and other inputs required to build homes. It is a tax on homes, all while he hides his millions of dollars in a Bermuda tax haven. Why does he hide his money abroad while taxing homes here in Canada?
The Honourable Minister of Housing and Infrastructure.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. If the Leader of the Opposition and Conservatives actually cared about affordable housing, they would have voted for the budget with $13 billion for affordable housing. Mr. Speaker, they could have voted for $1 billion to fight homelessness and build supportive housing. They could. These Conservatives stalled the first-time home buyers GST break since June. They have no credibility on affordable housing, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Saint-Jean. Mr. Speaker, the oil agreement between the Liberals and Alberta is a betrayal of the climate. Canada is abandoning the global fight for the environment. That is what the Liberal MP for Laurier-Sainte-Marie confirmed yesterday on Tout le monde en parle, a TV show. I quote, "If we're honest with Canadians, we can no longer achieve our 2030 targets with the recent announcements. It's simply not possible." Mr. Speaker, will the Liberals be as honest as the MP and confirm to Quebecers and Canadians that they have absolutely no intention of meeting their targets? The Honourable Leader of the Government in the House. Mr. Speaker, the agreement from last week is a major piece of progress for climate change and the environment in Canada. Carbon capturing.
You guys haven't already hit that like button, huh?
Energies throughout Western Canada. Nuclear energy. A clear process with clear conditions. imposed upon the province of Alberta, Mr. Speaker. This is a major step forward for our environment. The rules are clear, and Alberta is now committed to putting forward its own environment action plan. The Honourable Member for Saint-Jean. I don't understand how they're trampling their values. Mr. Speaker, the oil agreement from Alberta positions Canada as one of the world's worst environmental polluters for decades to come. It confirms that the Liberals have sold out all of their principles to the same oil companies that are majority shareholders of the Conservative Party. Mr. Speaker, it's not surprising that there are Conservative defectors among the Liberals now, because they have the same policies. The real question is, why aren't more Liberals following the example of the member for Lorient-Sainte-Marie and resign? And why are they not resigning?
Oh, shit.
Member. Mr. Speaker. The people of British Columbia aren't saying that they need a Bloc Québécois to defend them. They have a clear path forward. We're creating jobs for BC. We're creating opportunities for BC. We are collaborating with First Nations in BC. We are creating renewable energy projects. We are creating electricity networks. Mr. Speaker, British Columbia is a great winner when it comes to the creation of opportunities, jobs, and major projects. We were voted in to build Canada strong, and that is what we will do. The Honourable Member for Jonquière. Mr. Speaker, Quebecers did not vote for climate betrayal. Many of them even voted Liberal out of fear of the Conservatives. Today, the Liberals are betraying them with a Conservative oil deal with Alberta. Quebecers elected 44 Liberal MPs, and they are now being betrayed. Alberta elected 2, and its wildest, oiliest dreams are coming true. So we must ask the question again. What is the point of voting for Quebec MPs who don't even defend Quebec's interests? The Honourable Minister for Industry. Mr. Speaker, the 44 MPs from Quebec are proud to defend this government, and we will defend the interests of Quebecers because in the last election, Quebecers told us very clearly that they wanted us to protect them with regards to what is happening in the States. Given the current geopolitical climate that is ever-changing, given that the States also made decisions with regards to energy, we must be able to be sovereign with our energy. And that's why we've made this decision to have a strong agreement with Alberta.
Honourable Member for Thornhill.
Once upon a time in Canada, you could work hard, earn a decent living, and build a better life. In the decade of Liberal policy, that bargain has been blown to pieces. A CTV report this weekend showed that even families earning $200 grand are being driven out of Toronto because they can't afford a basement rental, a home, or anything else. Last year, 35,000 households fled the GTA, not because they wanted to, but because they had to. Is move somewhere cheaper the new official government slogan of these Liberals for Canadians who can't afford to stay in their homes?
That's crazy. Can't afford life in Toronto.
Speaker, well,
with
it's
200
hypocrisy to hear this from the Conservatives. All of a sudden, they're concerned about affordable housing. Building starts are up across Canada this year versus last year. If you look at year to year, we're moving up. We are investing $13 billion in Build Canada homes. That's focused on non-market housing and market housing that leverages it. Mr. Speaker, we're getting no support from the Conservatives to scale up affordable housing at an unprecedented rate, and we expect that if they're going to speak out here about it.
The Honourable Member for Thornhill.
Speaker, it is clear we would never support any of the policies that doubled home prices over the last decade.
Yeah.
But families aren't just leaving Toronto because it's expensive. They're leaving because it's dangerous. We have needles in parks and crack pipes on the subway, and everybody is just supposed to pretend that all of this is normal. Does the government understand that public safety failures and the cost of housing, the cost of food, the cost of everything else are pushing Canadians out of their own communities after 10 years of their Liberal failure?
The Honourable Minister of Jobs and Families.
Mr. Speaker, it'd be really nice if these Conservatives would read the reports that they quote in the House of Commons. Food Banks Ontario talks about the importance of increasing base rates for social assistance, making sure that people living in poverty have sufficient social supports, Mr. Speaker, investing in income supports for Canadians like we have done through the Canada Disability Support payment, Mr. Speaker. The kinds of recommendations coming out of these reports fly in the face of the individualism that we hear over on on the other side, Mr. Speaker. What Canadians know is that sometimes people face hard times, and when they do, they want their country to be there for them.
She didn't answer the question at all. Like, not even close.
Mr. Speaker, whilst the Prime Minister continues to reap profits sheltered from taxation in Bermuda, the middle class here in Canada is now directly affected by this Liberal government's hidden taxes on every grocery. The Quebec Observatory of Inequalities reveals today that nearly 20% of workers suffer from food insecurity. This doubled in 4 years. Even with a steady job, we don't have enough to cope with rising food costs and rent costs. Why is this Prime Minister so proud to continue in the same direction with record deficits and spending, which will only make life even more expensive for Canadians and even more difficult when it comes to getting food? The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary for Youth. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Once again, I would like to highlight that no parents should find it difficult to feed their children. I was in Nova Scotia this weekend. I was lucky enough to meet mothers, women, who work in childcare centres, who take care of our children. They could not stress enough how important our measures have been for them to reduce the cost of childcare, to improve the childcare benefit. They are very happy with these investments made, but the Conservatives keep voting against. The Honourable Member for Mégantic-L'Érable-Lotbinière. I'll give one impact of 10 years of Liberal governance: eating less to be able to afford housing. That is the sad choice that Canadians have to make. The Observatory has stated that food insecurity has nearly doubled in 4 years as a result of Liberal inflationary policies. 1 in 3 suffer from it. Severe food insecurity has increased by 63% in 3 years. It means skipping meals, weight loss, and extreme deprivation. And the Prime Minister tells young people and tenants that we'll have to make sacrifices in the future. How many more will have to sacrifice everything to enrich Brookfield and all Canadians?
Man.
Mr. Speaker, this is a serious
Brookfield
issue.
is
What my
not
colleague
getting
did not
off the
mention
hook, I'll tell
was
you
the
that.
first thing we did is reduce income tax for Canadians. 22 million Canadians will now pay less tax. The second measure that the Conservatives voted against, and people need to note this because they voted against measures to build new homes. Affordable housing is the basis of affordability, Mr. Speaker. If they were really serious, if they were so concerned with this, every single one of them would have supported Budget 2025.
Honourable Member for Hastings, Lennox and Addington, Tyendinaga.
At a time when families are under unprecedented financial pressures, Canadians expect their government to put them first. Right. While this Prime Minister travels abroad, meeting with dictators and autocrats, Canadians here at home are struggling to make ends meet. In parts of Ontario, food bank visits have increased by over 250%. This budget was an opportunity for the government to lower the cost of living by eliminating the industrial carbon tax. Instead, they callously increased it. Why?
Yeah, you tell us.
Secretary of State for Seniors.
Mr. Speaker, these Conservatives voted against lowering the cost of living when they voted against Budget 2025 because they voted against food in schools for children. They voted against a tax cut for middle-income Canadians.
What else?
They voted against $75 million in apprenticeship training and against a refundable tax credit for personal support workers.
Really? Oh my God.
They also voted against $45 million in funding to address gender-based violence.
Wow.
Mr. Speaker, Canadians and seniors want to know who these Conservatives are fighting for, because it certainly isn't them.
The Honourable Member for Hastings,
They're trying to fight for Canada, but you guys keep blocking them.
Instead of disingenuous replies to very serious questions, Canadians deserve answers. Let me share the state of Ontario, of food banks in Ontario. 2 in 3 food banks are concerned about sustaining their operations over the next 6 months. 1 in 2 worry they will not have enough food to meet the needs in their community. And directly from the Hunger Report, quote, over the past 5 years, the proportion of first-time food bank visitors have increased. The trend is unsurprising as overall food bank use has nearly doubled. Mr. Speaker, can the Prime Minister explain why he's driving up grocery costs? Yeah. While he's refusing.
The Honourable Secretary of State.
Mr. Speaker, these Conservatives voted against lowering the cost of living for seniors when they voted against Budget 2025. They voted against old age security. They voted against the Guaranteed Income Supplement. They voted against the New Horizons for Seniors program. They voted against anti-fraud measures that protect seniors from scams. They voted against a tax credit for personal support workers that support seniors who need care. They voted against dental care for over 6 million Canadians that are currently taking advantage of that. Canadians want to know, Mr. Speaker, who these Conservatives are fighting for, because it clearly isn't them.
The honourable member for King Vaughan.
Mr. Speaker, food bank usage is at a dangerously high level. With over 1 million people using the food bank in Ontario, this past year usage has skyrocketed 165%. Parents take pride in providing for their families. However, the cost of living crisis, 29% of food bank users are children. Wow. When will this Liberal government stop playing games with their Brookfield buddies and stop the industrial carbon tax so Canadians can afford to feed their families?
Great question, and it's a real problem.
Mr. Speaker, Feed Ontario and Food Banks Canada do important work on the front lines, but they also make important recommendations for government, Mr. Speaker. And what are some of those recommendations? They recommended that Budget 2025 include automatic benefits.
If you guys haven't yet already,
benefit,
hit the like button, please.
Brought back by our government. National School Food Program, which was made permanent by our government, which the Conservatives recently called garbage. Mr. Speaker, they called on the government to make sure that we were building more affordable housing, and Build Canada Homes does just that. Mr. Speaker, how do the Conservatives sleep at night? Just exploiting the challenges that Canadians are facing for their own political gain without following one suggestion.
The Honourable Member for Repentigny. Mr. Speaker, the Canada-Alberta oil agreement is a betrayal of the climate. Canada is abandoning its greenhouse gas reduction targets. It is abandoning all of its environmental policies of the last 10 years. It is abandoning biodiversity by revoking the moratorium on oil tankers. It is abandoning even the protection of Indigenous lands. At this rate, all that will remain of the Environment Minister's mandate is to rubber stamp the Prime Minister's oil agreement. The Honourable Secretary of State for Nature. I'm not sure, Mr. Speaker, that we could talk about betrayal. Our government is finding a new strategy to meet significant objectives. The Prime Minister, myself, the 44 Liberal Quebec MPs, we all have environmental values. We share them and will continue to better explain things, but we will have strategies to meet our objectives. We have to be able to do so, and in this agreement, there are important tools to do so. And on top of that, Alberta will help us to contribute for the environment. The Honourable Member for Repentigny. Mr. Speaker, once again, the Liberals are all ashamed. They talk about everything except their dirty oil pipelines from the tar sands. They are ashamed to admit that they are no longer fighting climate change by abandoning their greenhouse gas reduction targets. Worse, they are ashamed to admit that they are even going to accelerate climate change with 1.4 million more barrels of dirty oil every single day.
Good.
Mr. Speaker,
Shut
how
up.
can ministers
Keep Becker
agree
with a small
to be the
pecker.
spokespeople for oil policies?
Hell yeah,
They're ashamed
more
to talk
oil.
about it. They should be cowering under their desks.
Everywhere. Oil.
The Honourable
Give
Leader
it
of the Government in
away
the
like
House.
Oprah.
Mr. Speaker,
You get
when the
oil.
Bloc
He gets oil. Everybody gets oil.
speaks in such ways, in ways that
Quebec
no one
is so
really
fucking
understands.
stupid.
At the end of the day, we have an environmental plan with Alberta to work on renewable energies in Western Canada, concentrate on nuclear energy with very specific conditions for conventional energy. At the same time, we're working with Quebec and all other provinces to continue our progress that will make Canada a leader in renewable energy throughout the world. The Honourable Member for Richmond North Athabasca. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Christmas parties, asking people to bring food, to donate to food banks are more present than ever. There has been a striking increase in food bank uses. We've gone from 11% of people going to them to 20% in 2023 under this Liberal government. Even people with jobs can't make ends meet. Why does the Prime Minister insist on keeping the gas tax that makes food more expensive? The Honourable Secretary of State for Children and Youth. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Our budget helps Canadians to move forward. In the report, it is said that we need to make access to support more easy. That's what we've done with the automatic tax return that will help more than 5 million Canadians obtain what they are owed. They will get support like the childcare benefit that gives close to $8,000 per child. We are here for Canadian families. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
No, you're
not.
not.
For Richmond, Athabasca. Mr. Speaker, with all due respect, I invite the colleague to go to food banks and see the people waiting in line. The situation is dire. It doesn't work. 600,000 Quebecers go to food banks every month. It's good that we have organizations and kind-hearted people that help in my community. What we see is a Liberal government that needs to be accountable. How can it choose to reduce taxes on luxury yachts when people find it hard to eat? Are there any other Liberal MPs, like the one from Laurier-Sainte-Marie, that will say, this is a straw that breaks a camel's back? The Honourable Leader of the Government in the House. Mr. Speaker, just like the MP, I always go to these kind of fundraiser events. I go to food banks in this festive season. We show the same solidarity that Quebecers have always shown and that Canadians have always shown. People at those events ask me why Conservatives always vote against food support for children in school. Why do they vote against the child benefit? Why do they vote against tax reductions? Why do they vote against dental insurance and farmer insurance? Why do the Conservatives keep voting against support for vulnerable people?
For Nanaimo Ladysmith.
Food banks across Vancouver Island are overwhelmed, Mr. Speaker. We're seeing a surge in seniors, young families, newcomers, and increasingly full-time workers who cannot afford the price of food. These are people who played by the rules, who worked hard, and who never imagined they would need a food bank just to get through the week. Instead of helping, the Prime Minister is increasing the industrial carbon tax, driving up the cost of transporting and producing food, and making groceries even more expensive. Why is the Prime Minister insisting on hiking the industrial carbon tax when British Columbians can't afford to feed their families?
The Honourable Secretary of State for Seniors.
Mr. Speaker, we are supporting seniors and individuals across Vancouver Island to ensure that they have an affordable life. For example, I met with the Mustard Seed in my riding of Esquimalt-Saanich-Sooke, where they are running several food programs to ensure food security. This includes a food program called Flourish for children that ensures that they are fed, and this takes advantage of the National School Food Program. They're also ensuring that they can run their programs with the Canada Summer Jobs Program. These are initiatives that are so key to ensuring that people are fed well on Vancouver Island, initiatives that the Conservatives voted against.
The Honourable Member for Nanaimo Ladysmith.
I asked a question, Mr. Speaker, and I got a deflection. People in my community can speak to the impact of the industrial carbon tax because, unlike the Prime Minister, they do go to the grocery store. And it's not just my local food bank, Mr. Speaker. The Saanich Food Bank, in that member's riding, says they've also been seeing more young families, seniors, and newcomers. Family Services of Greater Vancouver is also seeing more full-time workers. Right now, everyone is in need. So I ask again, will the Prime Minister commit to eliminate the industrial carbon tax?
The Honourable Secretary of State.
No, he's increasing it.
Mr. Speaker, you know what Canadians and Vancouver Islanders need to ensure an affordable life? They need money in their jeans. They need things like the old age security. They need things like the government guaranteed income supplement. They need things like the child tax benefit. These things put money in folks' jeans. These are initiatives that the Conservatives voted against time and time again.
Very good.
Honourable Member for Mission Matsqui Abbotsford.
Mr. Speaker, the Family Services of Greater Vancouver reports record demand for Christmas food hampers and food banks in general. They outline that working full-time families, even those in higher income tax brackets, can't afford the basics. For 9 straight months, grocery prices across Canada have risen faster than inflation. Yet this government keeps piling on costs, driving food prices even higher while Canadians struggle to meet their basic needs. Why is the Prime Minister increasing the industrial carbon tax on things like cold storage and fertilizer, making food even more expensive for struggling Canadian families?
The Honourable Minister of Jobs and Family.
Mr. Speaker, here we go again with the imaginary taxes. In fact, the food professor himself said one of the hardest things to predict is the effect of climate change on the cost of food. They don't use that quote when they're, misleading Canadians with inaccurate information. Mr. Speaker, on this side of the House, we know what helps families. It's actually money in your pocket. So when the Canada Child Benefit is indexed to inflation, when the OES and GIS are there for seniors, when we have dental care and pharmacare and affordable early learning and child care, Mr. Speaker, these things are reducing the cost for families and putting money in the pockets of Canadians. That's how you help.
The Honourable Member for Winnipeg South.
Mr. Speaker, in the last election, we committed to build Canada strong, to make Canada an energy superpower, grow the strongest economy in the G7, and strengthen industrial carbon pricing. Last week's Memorandum of Understanding between Canada and Alberta provides a framework to advance those goals. Can the Minister of Energy and Natural Resources explain how Alberta and Canada will work together with Indigenous rights holders in British Columbia to get projects built, create good jobs, and diversify our exports beyond the United States?
Honourable Minister of Natural Resources.
Mr. Speaker, last week I invited the Conservatives to come to Calgary. You know what they would have seen, Mr. Speaker? Not one, but 2 standing ovations from a sold-out crowd in Calgary. Why? Because this MOU is about getting results for Canadians. That means more certainty for investment, unprecedented collaboration with Alberta.
Let's see when stuff actually starts happening,
infrastructure projects forward. This will get done while increasing durability of industrial carbon pricing and requiring consultation with British Columbia and respecting the rights of Indigenous peoples. Mr. Speaker, that's how we build Canada strong.
The Honourable Member for Calgary East.
Leave it in the ground. Liberals outed themselves, admitting their fake announcement last week isn't a pipeline approval. The eco-radical Liberal member from Victoria admitted there's no route, there's no project, there's no proponent, which means no pipeline. Who needs pipeline opponents when you have Liberal caucus members like that? The Prime Minister is fueling confusion to divide Canadians, all while talking out of both sides of his mouth. To the Prime Minister, when will shovels be in the ground? Just a year.
Minister of Natural Resources.
Mr. Speaker, I guess the member opposite didn't listen to his premier because his premier said it was a great day for Alberta. If the Conservatives are serious about getting things built, they should clarify whether they support this Made in Canada agreement or whether they will keep opposing cooperation, undermining investment, scrapping policies that will help Canada compete in a lower carbon world.
Member from Calgary East.
The difference is Conservatives will build pipelines while the Liberals build pipe dreams. That answer is as fake as when the Prime Minister says he's working on the best interests of Canadians and not Brookfield. Entropy is a carbon capture company getting massive Canadian handouts. Their biggest investor is Brookfield. This Prime Minister is more worried about making big bucks for his Brookfield buddies and building pipe dreams. Starving Canadians want to know, how much are the Prime Minister and his Brookfield buddies getting bankrolled by Canadians instead of getting a pipeline built?
The Honourable Minister of Natural Resources.
Speaker, here they go again with conspiracy theories. Perhaps they could get on board with getting things built, with stop undermining investment certainty, and stop trying to scrap policies that will get us to be an energy superpower in a low-carbon world.
The Honourable Member for Edmonton Northwest.
Last week, the Liberal Minister for Natural Resources blatantly disrespected Indigenous groups by rudely offering pipeline consultations over Zoom. Not only is this insulting, but consultations with Indigenous groups should have started 8 months ago in person when the Liberals promised to move at a scale and speed not seen in generations.
I personally didn't have a problem with those
Indigenous
comments.
groups do as well. So my question is, was last week's announcement just another Liberal photo op underpinned by reconciliatory rhetoric?
The Honourable Minister of Natural Resources.
Speaker, I addressed those comments last week. I was apologizing apologize for those comments. This MOU lays out clearly how we will work with Indigenous peoples to get things built in Canada.
Member for Skeena-Bulkley Valley.
LNG Canada and Chevron's KLNG project got efficient approvals mainly due to pre-consultations, which this Liberal government hasn't done. Instead, this Liberal government proposed to do consultations over Zoom, over video calls, to deal with constitutionally protected rights and title. Now the Liberals say it's up to Alberta to get consent, which is wrong. This is Canada's responsibility.
Hear, hear.
When will the Liberals deal with constitutionally protected rights and title longer because it's too late to deal with pre-consultations?
The Honourable Minister of Crown Indigenous Relations.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. All major projects require the duty to consult and, if appropriate, accommodation. The projects, as they move forward, require that consultation, and that is what we will do. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for North Island, Powell River.
Canada used to be a country that built things, that got things done, that built the Canadian Pacific Railway through the Rockies and across the Canadian Shield. Today, we are governed by Liberals that spend more time building fake backdrops for press conferences than on nation-building projects to secure our sovereignty from the United States. A new pipeline to the Pacific was already approved 11 years ago, and the Liberals killed it. McDonald didn't promise one day to maybe review a proposal and hope a railway got built. He promised a route to the Pacific, and he delivered. Will this government do the same, yes or no?
The Honourable Minister of National Defence.
Mr. Speaker, this summer we signed a historic agreement to forge a new, ambitious and comprehensive partnership with European countries. Today, the Prime Minister announced the conclusion of negotiations for Canada's participation in SAFE. This will unlock billions and billions of dollars in defence opportunities for our Canadian businesses. It'll give our defence industry expanded access to the European market, new reliable supplies for the Canadian Armed Forces, catalyze massive private investment in Canada. Mr. Speaker, we can compete and we can win. We're the only non-European country able to participate. We're building Canada strong.
Honourable Member for Bull River.
Mr. Speaker, last week Liberal members scrambled to explain that their so-called MOU with Alberta was not the approval of a pipeline, but is just more consultations. And the BC Liberal caucus rushed to distance themselves from this entirely. The same agreement includes a massive increase in the industrial carbon tax, a hike that will raise the cost of everything for families and businesses already struggling under this government. At committee today, the minister admitted that Alberta's exemption for the clean electricity regulations will take place way down the road. So, Mr. Speaker, when these Liberals say that they can move at a scale and speed not seen in generations, do they mean building projects or just raising taxes?
The Honourable Minister of Natural Resources.
Mr. Speaker, Canada's in a trade war, and it's about time we all recognize that. Our agreement with Alberta is a wartime-like Team Canada plan to strengthen our hand and put Canada in a winning position.
Anyway, I'd like to continue with the answer, but we need a little more silence. I think we're good now. The Honourable Minister of Natural Resources.
I will continue. This MOU is about growing exports beyond a single customer while driving down emissions with strong industrial carbon pricing and a commitment to decarbonization projects. Our goal is to create investment certainty, reduce regulatory overlap, and ensure meaningful consultation with provinces and Indigenous communities.
Member for Oxford.
Mr. Speaker, termination letters are starting to roll out for CAMI workers out at Ingersoll just weeks before Christmas. One of the workers said it's a punch right to the gut. But on October 23rd, the Minister of Industry said, and I quote, "I expect a full update within 15 days from GM." Well, her self-imposed deadline has come and gone. There is no plan. There is no action. There is no update. Our workers can't keep feeding themselves off of empty Liberal promises. So after breaking her own promises, why should our auto workers believe a word she says?
There you go. I mean, they lost 1,000 jobs this morning.
Mr. Speaker, I beg to differ. You know why?
In
Because
Canada.
the workers don't agree with my colleague's statement. The unionized workers are completely behind the government's plan to push back against any form of movement at Ingersoll, because we believe that GM can act along with the government and along with Unifor to bring back a new model. Meanwhile, I've had several meetings. I even went to Ingersoll. I met with Unifor, and Mr. Speaker will continue to fight for these jobs.
The honourable member for Elgin St. Thomas.
When GM shut down the Carney plant and laid off 1,200 workers, the industry minister claimed she was on it. She said she was demanding a full update from GM within 15 days and that she would offer transparency to Canadians. That was 39 days ago. No clarity, no plan, no relief for auto workers in Elgin, St. Thomas, and London, who this Liberal government told they would have their backs. When the Prime Minister was asked about standing up for Canadian jobs, he said, "Who cares?" My question is to the industry minister. Does she?
The honourable
That's a good question.
Minister of Industry.
Mr. Speaker, we are all very much aware that the auto workers are affected by the unjustifiable and unjustified American tariffs. And that is why we've been supporting all of them, working with Unifor, working with Lana Pine, who's on speed dial, and to whom which I speak pretty much every day. That being said, we'll continue to fight against Stellantis to make sure that they bring back their operation at Brampton. We'll make sure that we work with GM at the Carney plant in Ingersoll, because we think that there's a path towards a good news story.
The honourable member for Edmonton West.
Apparently nobody in this government bothered to read the Stellantis contract before Canadian, or to see if Canadian jobs would be protected before giving Stellantis billions of dollars in taxpayers' money. The Minister of Industry did not read it. The Deputy Minister for Industry and the past Deputy Minister of Industry did not read it. Finance Canada lawyers did not read it. They all pointed their fingers at the former Industry Minister, who is, of course, the Finance Minister now. So before giving billions in taxpayers' dollars for a project whose jobs are now fleeing to the U.S., did the Finance Minister read the contracts?
The Honourable Minister of Industry.
Mr. Speaker, not only did the entire team read it, but you know what we read? We read what the Harper government did in 2009 when they bailed out GM and Chrysler at the time. And you know what we saw? We saw that there was no job protection in that deal. And so you know what we'll do now? We'll make sure that we fight for these jobs. We will make sure that we'll put maximum pressure, and they should stop just whining. They should just get on board and make sure we put
L'honorable député de Vaudreuil.
Mr. Speaker, we know that artificial intelligence may be central to the economy of the future. Everything from healthcare to transportation has the potential to be revolutionized by AI. Canadians want to be confident that Canada is staying at the cutting edge of AI innovations. Can a Minister of Artificial Intelligence tell the House how our government is supporting Canada's AI ecosystem and ensuring that Canadian researchers and companies continue to lead globally?
Honourable Minister of Artificial Intelligence and Digital Innovation.
I want to thank my colleague for the good question, for his leadership in his community of Vaudreuil. Canadian pioneers like Jeffrey Hinton and Joshua Bengio helped invent modern AI right here in Canada. And our three world-leading institutes, Mila in Montreal, Amy in Edmonton, and Vector in Toronto, are success stories. Mr. Speaker, we just invested more, $42.5 million in new compute for researchers all over the country. As the head of our digital research said, we're ensuring innovators have the tools they can to compete globally while keeping our data sovereign. We're building here in Canada.
Member for Newmarket Aurora.
A resident pleaded with me. My family and I are struggling with the rent costs and the price of food, and they're not alone. A CTV News article tells us that 35,000 families are fleeing the GTA because staying in the GTA means living on edge financially with very little room to grow. Families are being uprooted, generations torn apart. Canadians are forced to leave the very communities that they grew up in. Increasing the industrial carbon tax increases the cost of cement, steel, and all the materials that go into building homes. Why is this Liberal government increasing the industrial carbon tax and making housing even more expensive?
The Honourable Minister of Housing and Infrastructure.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Well, the good news is that the price of housing is actually coming down. We're seeing from the Parliamentary Budget Officer's report in October, average rents are down across Canada, average price of housing is down, mortgage rates are down, housing starts are up. Mr. Speaker, this side of the House is doing something about housing affordability. That side of the House is voting against it.
For Newmarket, Aurora.
All we hear from these Liberals are empty promises. For the last decade, they've been promising the same things. They know these ideas don't work, and the record speaks the truth. In the GTA, housing starts have plunged 34%, not increase. In just 9 months, condo starts are down 51%. And the slowdown in the construction industry means 35,000 lost years of employment for Canadians. Instead of building homes, the Liberals are piling on more bureaucracy and increasing the industrial carbon tax. Why can they stop raising punishing taxes, driving away our jobs and investment while Canadians cannot afford a home or food?
The Honourable Minister of Housing and Infrastructure.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Well, this side of the House has proposed a budget that has unprecedented investment in affordable housing. The Conservative side of the House has an opportunity to support $13 billion investment in affordable housing, Mr. Speaker. Conservatives have dragged the first-time home buyers tax break on GST since June. That was an opportunity to save first-time home buyers money. Mr. Speaker, we're giving them opportunities to support our investment in affordability and affordable housing across Canada. Thank you.
For York Centre.
Over 35,000 families fled the GTA last year because they can't afford a home. Yeah. CTV followed a Toronto woman who couldn't buy a house with a $200,000 income. The Liberals pretend that the impact of the industrial carbon tax on new house is imaginary, but clearly industrial carbon tax increases the cost of cement, the cost of steel, and the cost of all materials that go into new homes. Last month, only 25 new condos were sold in Toronto, in a city of 3 million. When families are fleeing the GTA, why do the Liberals make housing even more expensive by increasing the industrial carbon tax? Why?
The Honourable Minister of Jobs and Family.
Speaker, I want to recognize the Northern Ontario mayors who are here this week talking about their incredible work to attract people to Northern Ontario. These mayors are actually investing in the very things that create affordable housing, using the housing accelerator, working with infrastructure, working with the province of Ontario, making sure that as critical mineral projects boom in our region, we have the housing to accommodate those workers. Mr. Speaker, good things are coming for Northern Ontario.
Mr. Speaker, last week, despite obstruction and stalling from the Conservative, we successfully referred Bill C-12 back to the House. This legislation is critical to securing our borders, strengthening our immigration system, and keeping Canadians safe. Can the Minister of Public Safety tell Canadians why this legislation is essential to ensuring their safety and protection?
The Honourable Minister for Public Safety.
Mr. Speaker, I'd like to thank the member for Compton Stansted for her incredible work in the SECU Committee, and I want to thank the members of the SECU Committee for making sure that Bill C-12 passes report stage at committee. Bill C-12 will give law enforcement the tools to keep our borders secure, combat organized crimes, auto theft, extortion, money laundering, and the trafficking of illegal weapons and drugs, Mr. Speaker. The bill will enhance the integrity of our immigration system by creating robust screening standards as well as ensuring fair and transparent enforcement. Keeping Canada strong means keeping Canadians secure, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Côte-du-Sud, Rivière-du-Loup, Kataskamekta-Miskwata. Mr. Speaker, December is slated to be the most difficult month in decades. In my riding, the director of the Moisson Kamouraska Food Bank has told me that demand is skyrocketing. In Quebec, there were 3.1 million food bank visits in 2025, 37% more than in 2022. The demand for Christmas hampers will be unprecedented. With the price of food going up, eating is now practically a luxury, and yet the Liberals are still hanging on to their fuel tax, which is making food prices go even higher. Mr. Speaker, why is the Prime Minister refusing to help families in my riding who are struggling to put food on the table? The Honourable Minister of Industry. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I have a great deal of respect for my colleague. As he knows, and as we all know, Regular people in Quebec want to have a good job. Currently, a great many tariffs are being brought in by the American administration. During this difficult time, we will be there to protect our businesses that give people good jobs in Quebec. I will continue to work with him over this holiday period so that people can get good jobs and to help us have a strong safety net in Quebec and throughout Canada. We believe in that.
Mr. Speaker, in 2021, the Zim Kingston lost over 100 shipping containers. In 2016, the Hanjin Seattle spilled dozens, and now a barge off Bella Bella has nearly gone down with a full load. Each time, First Nations and local communities are left to respond and face lasting impacts. The Transportation Safety Board says Canada still has no system for cargo unit or marine debris spills. When will this government act on these recommendations and create a coordinated response system that includes coastal communities backed by an ecosystem service fee on cargo units so industry can help protect our coasts?
The Honourable Government House Leader.
I want to thank my honourable colleague for that question. It's an important issue indeed, and we want to make sure that marine safety, indeed the safety of all vessels, their seaworthiness, the safety and security of those who are aboard them, and indeed the environment for those who must deal with those transgressors must all be dealt with. I'm very glad to have the honourable member's cooperation and interest in this file, and I can assure him that we'll continue to be working on it as we work on the security of our supply chains and the sustainability of our marine transportation.
Well, thank you, colleagues. That puts an end to question period. Je désire informer la Chambre.
I would like to inform the House that the volume of earpieces will now be reset.
Oh my goodness.
We'll take a minute.
Thank God that's done. Holy crap. Does that ever get boring, man? All right. Well, that's the end of question period. Thankfully. We got a super chat here. 699 Conservatives are failing today. Put more pressure on Jolie. She's openly lying about Stellantis and our $1.5 billion. I appreciate that. Yeah, they're doing good on some things and they're doing really bad on others. I'm talking about the Conservatives, obviously. It's okay. It's okay because you know what? We get to come back tomorrow for the exact same thing. Questions without answers. They literally say, hey, we've got you dead to rights. You're caught in this scandal and in the scam. What are you going to do about it? Well, I'd just like to thank people from Ontario for being here up in the gallery and watching us. No. We've got you dead to rights in a scam, in a scandal. What are you going to do about it? I'd just like to say that this is Stephen Harper's fault. What the fuck? If you're wondering why so many people in this country don't give a shit about our politics, it's because of this. Like nothing happens. Literally, people tune in for question period because of Pierre Poilievre. If Pierre wasn't in question period, our views would be tanking. All of the political channels would just go extinct. Nobody would care about politics. I get that Carney is a walking controversy and carries a lot of scandals, not to the extent of Trudeau, at least not yet, but still. People only care about politics right now, like Conservatives, because of Pierre. He's kind of carrying the weight of politics. At least for question period. At least mostly for question period. Anyways, I'll see you guys tomorrow for the same song and dance where absolutely nothing gets done. There is no point to any of this. We watch it, we hate it, and we